Hi there, and welcome to another session of the Elevenses Hangout on Air series, brought to you by Google Partners and the UKI agency team. So my name is Laura, and you might have seen me here before. I work in the UK agency team, and we're very lucky today to have a specialist guest speaker. This is Owen Moore.
Hi everybody, I'm really happy to be here today. I work on the app development team here at Google. What we do is we work with app-first businesses or hybrid businesses that have both a web presence and an app presence. So what we're going to talk to you today is about the state of the app market at the moment, how you can drive installs at scale, and mobile app tracking. And we're going to go over these three topics to make sure that we really see and understand why this is an important focus for a lot of agencies at the moment. So first of all, looking at the state of the apps market. This is still a market that's still skyrocketing. Year on year, this is growing. And in terms of app downloads in 2016, there was over 225 billion app downloads are forecast. In terms of App Store revenue in 2015, there's over $41 billion worth of revenue.
Wow, and is that globally?
This is globally, yeah, and it's also coming from in-app purchases, advertising inside apps, and paid apps. Paid apps probably makes up the smallest percent of all of that. Majority would be coming from in-app advertising and in-app purchases. In terms of the actual number of apps that are available across Android and iOS, there's over 1.5 million apps available in both stores today. And this is just growing and growing and growing. So it's still an ecosystem that is skyrocketing and it's not set to stop anytime soon. Why is it important for agencies and their clients to actually think critically and talk about apps? 90% of time on mobile devices is now actually spent inside apps. If anybody thinks about when they go to book a taxi, if they're booking a restaurant, if they're reading a newspaper, sending a message or sending an email, mostly people are doing that inside apps.
Wow, so if you actually think about it, like the amount of time each one of us would spend, like if you go home and you're ordering takeaway or you're getting your taxi, like that's a lot of opportunity. Like we've been talking a lot about those micro moments, those small moments throughout the day. So if you consider that 90% of the opportunity of those micro moments might be sitting in apps, like that's pretty incredible opportunity there.
Exactly. If you think about those apps that you use time and time again, they're the type of apps that people are spending the most time in. Even though it's such a big opportunity, we work on a day-to-day basis with agencies and with clients to address key challenges, and that's what we really want to talk about today, and the marketers see when they have an app. So the first stat here is 60%, an incredibly high amount of apps, have never been downloaded. So the first challenge we work with is how do we drive installs at scale? How do we make sure that apps are discoverable? And then second of all, only 25% of users download an app, use it once, and then never use it again or delete it. So how can we find app installs? How can we get our app discovered? But then also how can we find high quality users and retain those users? So what we're going to talk about now is how can we actually drive installs with Google's inventory. Google's inventory for app promotion, it's both premium and scalable. So across display, we have AdMob. This sits inside applications and it allows us to serve ads inside over 650,000 apps across the world. This allows us to see placements on certain types of applications based on interest category or based on demographics. So this is a great channel to get a really wide reach.
So for anyone who's done display, very, very similar.
Exactly. All that needs to be done is set up as an app install campaign.
Perfect.
In terms of intent, on google.com and for Android campaigns on Google Play, this is a key part of any strategy. Understanding when somebody is searching for a particular type of app, or in that micro moment that you mentioned earlier, when somebody is searching for, say, a taxi app or a recipe app, Google can actually understand when somebody is doing that and serve an ad right at that moment. In terms of engagement, YouTube is a unique channel where you can tell your story about your brand and about your application and engage with somebody to drive app installs.
So that's a lot altogether and a lot of ways to reach people. Can you do all of these together, or is it better to do them individually? What would you recommend?
So it depends on the strategy, but for anybody who's launching app campaigns for the first time on Android, I would recommend using Universal App Campaigns.
Okay.
So what Universal App Campaigns does is it brings together all of this inventory and it makes it very simple for the agency, for the advertiser to understand what's happening. So we show ads on Google Play, on Google.com, on our display network, either in apps or on the mobile web, and across YouTube.
Wow. And like, how does that compare? So in terms of like, your cost per install or your engagement, how does that compare with doing it individually?
I would say typically the universal app campaigns will get the lowest cost per install. If you had an individual campaign for, say, search, you're only serving inventory on search. With a universal app campaign, you're covering all of your bases and you're advertising across our whole network. What the system will do is it'll look where you can get the cheapest cost per install across all of this network, and then it'll focus your budget towards that network.
Okay, so it sounds quite automated.
Exactly. All you need to do is add 4 lines of text. If you have a video, that'll mean that the campaign will start to run on YouTube and also show video ads in our display network. If you don't have a video, it's not a problem. The campaign will still run across search and our display network. Once you've added in your video and your 4 lines of text, all you need to do is input your locations, your languages, your daily budget, and the target cost per install. And that's pretty much it. It's very, very straightforward. Your app ads will start to run on Google's inventory straight away. The optimization is all done on AdWords by the actual system itself. So the system will see the conversion data in terms of app installs that are happening, and behind the scenes, it'll start to optimize which ads get the best click-through rate. It'll start to manage the bids depending on the different placements, and it'll start to distribute the budget, say, between search, display, and YouTube to make sure that we achieve your target cost per install.
Brilliant. And outside of this then, so you just let it run, it automates everything for the best CPI you can get. And is there anything else you can do?
So there's very, very little optimizations that need to be done for this type of campaign because it runs across all of the network and it looks at the conversion data to find that target cost per install for you. The one possibility is you can add in negative keywords. So if there are some keywords that you don't want to advertise on, you can go into your keyword terms in AdWords and then add in negative keywords for the universal app campaign.
Great. So just similarly to adding negative keywords to any normal search campaign.
Exactly. In terms of what it looks like when you're creating a universal app campaign, here you'll see there's only one page actually. It's not like other AdWords campaigns where maybe you have 2 or 3 pages to create the ad. This is just one page. And you'll see when you add in your 4 lines of text and you actually have to select your Android app, it brings in your app logo in the advertising, it brings in your color scheme, and it brings in images from your actual Google Play page. So you'll see here on the right hand side where your app icon and images are automatically pulled in from Google Play.
Wow, that's super easy.
It's very, very straightforward. And that's why I'd recommend it if it's the first time for an agency or a client to promote their app to use this form.
Makes sense.
If an agency or a client does want to get more granular in terms of reporting and in terms of control, campaigns can be broken out into their constituent parts. So if you want to run search ads, the inventory automatically runs across Play and Google.com. Just make sure that the search campaign is set up as a mobile app install campaign. That'll again automatically bring in your app logo, your review ratings, and it'll bring a call to action to download the application. The same keywords run across Google.com and Google Play, so we don't need to break it out. And there actually is no possibility to break out between Google.com and Google Play. Intent is a really good indicator of a high quality user. So I would say that search 9 times out of 10 brings in best quality users.
Okay, great. And in terms of like, if you were a big brand name or a small brand name, would you recommend different strategies? Or once you set it up similar to a search campaign, but for apps, you can just optimize it the same way?
You would optimize it the same way.
Great.
Yeah, it's very important as well to bid on your brand term, especially in Google Play. If you aren't bidding on your brand term and competitors look at that and they bid on your brand term, it's obviously you're losing organic traffic. So it's quite important to look at your brand terms. In terms of display ads, so again, we automatically pull in your app logo, your images from the iTunes store or the Android store. Any users that already have your app installed, and this goes for all campaigns, won't be shown the actual ad. It's only users who don't have the application installed on their phone at that time. In terms of display network, there's different types of ads that can be shown. So on the left-hand side here for color drips, this is actually a video ad. So if this was playing, you would see a video of the game actually playing inside the display network. On the right-hand side, it's the standard text ad where Google brings in your icons and your logos from either iTunes or Google Play. You can also include your own image interstitials if you want. And then finally, YouTube. So YouTube is still the king for branding and getting a reach to a really engaged audience. What YouTube allows you to do is really describe to the end user what type of app it is so they fully understand what app it is they're downloading. So typically we get a really high quality user off YouTube because before they download it, they really know what type of app they're downloading and they're bought into the process before.
Brilliant. And then because it's so high in engagement and you also have that install button just ready to go there.
Exactly.
I imagine it's perfect.
So the great thing about all of these ads, whether it's across universal app campaigns or it's individually across search, display, or YouTube, is there is a call to action there that makes it very clear to an end user that this is an app download campaign. This is an app download that they can install and use on their device. Okay, so what I want to talk about finally is about tracking. And tracking is really, really important to get right for any app campaigns. When we set up app campaigns through any of the methods we talked about earlier, we recommend to use CPA bidding. This allows our conversion optimizer system to see which placements and which channels are getting the installs and optimize that on the back end. Without that conversion data, it's a lot more difficult.
Great. And I was just going to say, if anyone doesn't know or isn't familiar with CPA bidding, we've got full explanations in our help center, and you can also reach out to a Google rep if you have one and just ask for more information.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things to consider with tracking. Web tracking is not the same as app tracking. On web, you track with cookies, but for apps, you're actually using a device ID. So if it's Android or it's iOS, there's a device ID associated each time with a download, and that's what we use to track. So it's actually quite different than your typical cookie tracking. For iOS and Android, there's different tracking that needs to be implemented inside the applications. And it's really essential to work on this before you launch campaigns and to make sure that, as I mentioned before, the conversion optimizer system sees that data and can work towards your goals and bring you the best return on investment. So on the Android side, obviously we're really lucky to have a great integration with Google Play and AdWords. So if you're launching an Android campaign and you just want to track installs, it's very, very straightforward. There's no code required, and configuration is actually done during the AdWords campaign setup. When you launch a campaign, the very last page, it'll ask you to set up tracking, but you don't need to include any custom code inside the application. It just creates a connection between Google Play and AdWords. This just tracks the install. So Google Play sends us data back to AdWords when the app has been installed on a device.
So if you're beginning and you haven't really done anything in app promotion before, would you recommend just starting with this just to get some installation data into the account?
Exactly. So this is the most important step for Android. In terms of when you want to actually know about when an app was opened for the first time or any in-app tracking, you will need either to use the AdWords SDK, which stands for Software Download Kit, or use a third party through a server-to-server connection. So this will be used to actually monitor when the app was opened for the first time. So on Android, we only have the integration for Google Play, which will tell you when the app was installed on the device. But for iOS and Android, you will need either the AdWords SDK or a server-to-server connection for either looking at when the app was opened for the first time or tracking any in-app action within the application.
Great. And the AdWords SDK, that's completely free, right?
Exactly, yeah. So the AdWords SDK, if you Google AdWords SDK, you'll find it very quickly, and it'll give you very good documentation on what needs to be done for the developers, and you include that in the application. What's important here is about the in-app tracking. If you want to track past the download, and when somebody actually they purchases an item inside the application, or if they register, or if they view something inside the application, and you want to see this, this will show you the ROI for your app campaign. It's really important to use one of these. Okay. We've also included an overview here of what's available for tracking and some links to our support documentation and the developer documentation as well to implement this.
Perfect, and we can upload these slides afterwards if anyone's interested, so you can read those in more detail, or if you have any other questions, you can obviously just post them on the site. That was great. It was great to go through everything with Owen here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
If you have any more questions, as I say, there's always the hub, or you can contact your Google rep. We've got plenty of really nice case studies and tips on thinkwithgoogle.com. And then we'd recommend just giving you this link to set up a really simple universal app campaign, as Owen showed us just how easy it can be. Great, thanks for joining us, and thank you, Owen.
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Bye.